Mid-morning show here with myself, Nafisa Dango. What an inspirational talk with Marge Murray about the tween workshop. I think that's something that you really need to look at, creating a balance in your tween, especially during this COVID-19 period. Talking about phenomenal people, there's a gentleman that I'm going to be interviewing now. Let me tell you a little bit about him. His name is Sibusiso Masombuka. He's joined Greenside High School in 2019 as an educator, a sports administrator, a choir manager, and has recently been appointed as the Grade 10 head. He obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree majoring in psychology and anthropology at the University of Johannesburg in 2014. He completed his PGC at the same institution in 2016 and is currently studying towards a Bachelor of Education honors degree at the University of Pretoria. After a couple of years in the fashion retail industry, in a management role, Mr. Masombuka pursued his childhood dream of becoming an educator. He's passionate, should we say, a person who revels in sharing ideas, communicating concepts, and having inspiring conversations with learners. And he's going to talk to us this morning about his teaching philosophy, which I think is absolutely exceptional. A very good morning and a warm welcome to you, Sibusiso. Thank you so much for taking the time off to join us on your very busy morning schedule.
Thank you so much for having me, Nafisa. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your platform.
I think I was very inspired by reading your story and looking at how important education is for you, and following, should we say, in the ideologies of Nelson Mandela, where he spoke about the importance of education and what it means for people. I mean, giving somebody knowledge, I think, is the most important thing in their lives, because it's something that you're giving them that's going to last them forever and empower them in many directions. So let's talk about your journey and your empowerment and what it's meant for you before we actually go further into your philosophy.
Sure. So I'm all the way from Benoni. I'm 28 years old, 29 this year. I went to good schools, I won't lie. And my late mom was a teacher as well. But I don't really think that sort of inspired me to become a teacher. However, just being surrounded by my aunts and other family members that were teachers as well, I didn't want to be a teacher when I started off. But, there was my mentor, who was my deputy principal now at Greenside High School, always told me, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be a teacher. And I said, no, there's no way I want to be a teacher. And when I worked in the retail industry and I was a manager there, one of the bosses from head office had said to me, Sbu, we see that you work really hard, but we can see that your passion lies in something else. What is it that you actually want to do? And, at that time, I had no idea, because I was still doing my Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and Anthropology. And I thought maybe I might do my honors in anthropology and do, ethnographic research and visit different countries. And, she said to me, what is the one thing that you always did when you were young? And I said, well, I've always played school when no one was looking. and she's like, well, that's where your passion lies. And, to be honest with you, I resigned the following day and I called my old high school and I told them, listen, I want to become a teacher. Can you grant me this opportunity? I didn't get the job at first, but luckily a teacher had ditched them in the last minute and they needed a teacher immediately. And I was available. That's how my teaching career started in 2015.
I feel so proud because my son is a Greenside High School graduate as well.
Really? Oh, fantastic!
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so nice to be chatting to someone from that environment and seeing the types of things the school has done for these students and having to move you forward in life. It's exciting to see that you've actually looked at education and what does it mean for you, knowing that you wake up every single day and then you can go out there. And of course, education is empowerment. Empowerment is with knowledge, takes people into very high levels in their lives. And when I talk about knowledge, I talk about on a holistic level. It's not just about learning those subjects, but it's how you relate to it when you post school, post university. What you do with that knowledge in your life is actually what matters.
Yeah, yeah. So, my dad always told me that I must live the truest expression of myself. So I'm very glad to, wake up every day and actually teach and impart knowledge. But education or being a teacher, it does not only require you to impart knowledge, which is the content and the curriculum that we teach the kids, but it's also about imparting skills and values that the kids are going to need to live their everyday life. Because you and I know that life after high school is very different. It's a
Yes.
huge culture shock and a huge adjustment for many learners. So for many people, so it's so important for me to not just only teach the curriculum or the syllabus, but to also impart values, valuable values, and as well as skills that they're going to need to be able to survive the world of work, or if they're going to pursue their studies as well, and to also live the truest expression of themselves as well. So that's so important for me as a teacher.
I so agree with you there, and that's where your philosophy comes in. Let's talk about your teaching philosophy, because many a time, if you walk into a school environment, there's just that particular way of teaching, and that's just the way it is. You walk into a classroom, and the teacher pulls out the particular aspect that they're dealing with, and that's as far as it gets. But you've created your own philosophy and your own way of teaching students, and that's what I want you to talk about today, because I want people to understand the value behind that and what it means to be able to look into a different version of teaching and what it does for people from an empowerment perspective.
Yeah, I think my background in psychology and, just also the kind of thoughts that I had of what kind of teacher I wanted to become, I then, came up with the philosophy that I want to teach kids the way they learn. So, every teacher sort of has their own method of teaching, but I don't necessarily always agree with that. And sometimes I get into trouble for teaching kids the way I want to teach them or the way they want to learn. But I really find that kids engage with the content a lot more better when you engage with them in a way that they enjoy. So luckily, I am also a young teacher, but also it's so important for us teachers to study our audience. Where are our kids? What is their headspace? How do they like to consume information? Sometimes I take my kids to the field and we're like, well, let's have a discussion on the field and actually talk about like socioeconomic issues or issues pertaining to businesses and things such as COVID-19. How can we use different environments in our school and not just use a classroom setup to sort of discuss these things? So I, as a teacher, am a facilitator of their learning, and they are the ones that basically drive the force. And I use my different ways on how I can engage with them in a better way so they can understand the work so much better. And I feel like it's always worked for me. And that is why I am so steadfast on my teaching philosophy.
How have people taken to this new type of philosophy that you have in mind? Because, I mean, as we know, when you walk into a school, everything is so stereotyping. I'm going to say it like that because we all
Yeah.
learn the mundane way. You walk in, you pull out a book, teacher gives you the lesson, it's the end of the story. You go home, you do your homework. That's just how it works. But with your philosophy, I like the idea of the fact that you're taking them out, bringing them into perspective. And I think you're also bridging the gap, which is, I think,
Yeah.
very important. And that's where I find that the biggest hole is happening as far as education is concerned.
Yeah.
And just as you said, you go into the school environment, you go into the university environment. When you get into the real world, you're literally lost because I think students and parents, we teachers, we all bubble and cocoon our students and our children, and they don't get to learn about the real world.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said, it's so important to, study your audience and also be cognizant of all the different learning styles. Or not all kids are, kinesthetic learners, not all kids are visual learners, not all kids are auditory learners. Some kids are, they're all different. So how do I as a teacher, because at the end of the day, my principal expects results from me. So in order for me to get those results, I need to be able to accommodate each and every learning style that is available in my class. And I use different resources to sort of engage with the kids in that way. And can I tell you something? The response has been amazing. My results have been really, really great. And, kids really enjoy being around me, being taught by me. And because I'm so open to different ways of teaching and learning, I think the kids as well really appreciate that and appreciate somebody who not only is focused on, curriculum and syllabus, but incorporating skills and different values in the curriculum as well. It's so, so important that, we teach lessons that are going to be valuable for the kids, lessons that the kids are going to use later on in life as well. So I think, my background in psychology and just the idea of what type of teacher I wanted to become, is accommodating to each and every learner that I teach. And I mean, our constitution enshrines the value of inclusivity. So if I teach in one particular way or in a stereotypical way, it means that some learners are being excluded, and that's not something that I want. So that is why I as well, and that is why I'm also continuing with my studies, so I can find different ways and different methods on how to teach kids. And so far, so good. I'm very happy with how everything has been going.
I think it's such a phenomenal way of dealing with it, because you're determining each person, should we say, an individual's potentials, and working on those potentials and bringing those potentials forward, which was never done before.
Absolutely. I mean, our school slogan is individuality through community. So we want each and every child to be an individual, to learn who they are, to be the truest, to live the truest expression of themselves, to learn their talents, to learn their skills, but also remember that they exist within a community and that they can be an individual within a community. I went to a school that sort of, put a blanket over us, and sort of, we were treated in the same way. And some of us, our talents were sort of set back, or we were sort of hindered to express ourselves in a particular way. And we all came out the same thing, instead of us coming out and branching out into different people as well. So, and that's the kind of thing that I want to achieve with my kids, is that you can be whoever you want to be in the world and to live the truest expression of yourself.
I absolutely love that, because the thing is, what's happening is we are recognizing the uniqueness and the potential in each individual, and then bringing that out and allowing them to take that with them into the real world, where they are definitely going to be successful. Reason being, when you're in a normal school environment, your potentials and your uniqueness is actually not identified. You're just being taught the norm of what needs to be taught as per the curriculum.
Absolutely.
Nothing meant against any of those schools as such, but I think it's about time we change the ideologies of the way teaching needs to be done, where, as you're saying, I think your philosophy needs to be integrated in every school around the country.
Thank you so much. That's very flattering.
No, I really mean that, because the thing is, identification, like you say, when we were in school and we were younger, we could not identify our potentials and the situations that we were in, and having to leave school and having to find yourself, I think, is one of the most difficult things, because sometimes you actually get involved with something, and I can relate to it, because when I left school, I actually studied computer programming, which was not for me. And then when I was in matric, I actually did an ad with one of the top MNet guys at that point in time. And that's when I realized that my potential is actually in a very different industries where I am right now. So I so agree with you. I think what we need to do is take this philosophy and punt it to government and say, this is maybe the new way of having to look at finding potentials and teaching people. Because, I don't know if you agree with me. The ideology and physiology and the way physical things are done needs to be inculcated in the rural areas as well. We need to start punning on those children that don't have much. Yes, we're talking about the normal schools as well, but what about the schools in the rural areas where kids have such amazing potential? And I mean, there were so many people on my show that I actually interviewed, and I was so blown away, because they came from rural areas, and today the most phenomenal, should we say, human beings and potentialites are coming out from there. And yet they're not given that particular, should we say, philosophy to be able to identify their potentials.
Absolutely. I really think that if we really learn that and we're able to teach that in our schools, then, so much could come out from our country. And so many of our learners or people's skills in our country can be used for the right things. because I really think that, the hindrance of being able to express ourselves and to live the truest expression of ourselves is always hindered by what is set in stone. The, the idea of one size fits all does not exist in a society
I
like
agree with you.
ours, because we
I
all come from
agree
different.
fully with you. Sibusiso,
Yeah.
I agree fully with you. I'll tell you why. Because I have a motto: mediocrity is not the order of the day. And what
uh,
happens is when a student leaves school and they're in that environment and they need to empower themselves, they literally push themselves into a work environment or a workspace that is actually not meant for them. And this is where we find the hole in the country, where people are actually doing things literally for the sake of doing it. It's nothing is being done with passion, motivation, and drive.
Absolutely. And I mean, how do you do anything passionately if you're not passionate about it? And it must be something that is in it for you. It's an innate ability. Like teaching was an innate ability for me. Because I've always been able to express myself in a particular way. So yes, even though I was in a school that was very stereotypical in the way they taught us, I was always given that platform, even just a little bit, to just express myself, and that I'm truly grateful for. But I really wish there was more for myself, and maybe I would have learned more about myself in my younger years than I did in my adult years. So yeah, it's all about being able to navigate through life after high school.
Yeah, but you know what? You've been recognized, and that's good. It's nice to see that your accomplishments are being recognized. So, on behalf of the Salam Media team and myself, I want to congratulate you for the MTN Local Hero Award winner. I think that's an absolutely phenomenal achievement, being in your environment. I think a lot of the times educators are overlooked. People don't realize the importance of educators.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. It did come by surprise. It's not something that I applied for. I randomly got nominated on Twitter. Somebody saw about, or had known about my teaching initiatives during the lockdown period last year. And, they thought that I would be a possible candidate to be a local hero. And MTN recognized that. And yeah, I got phenomenal stuff and phenomenal feedback from it. And it's really just been a pat on the back and huge encouragement in my career as well, because each and every day I want to become a better teacher. So thank you so much for also giving me this platform and for recognizing that.
Well, that's what it's all about. The show actually is to showcase people like yourselves that are doing phenomenal work for others out there, and having to empower them is the most important thing. Doing something for somebody else is what matters. And speaking to you, knowing that you're going out there and making such differences in people's lives is what matters to us at Salam Media, because, of course, we're humanitarian journalism. And the
Yeah.
minute we see people getting uplifted, it means so much for us. It gives us such reward and fulfillment, knowing that people like yourselves are going out there. But as I said, being recognized was the most important thing for me, because a lot of the times people give attention to people in other spheres of business, but not to educators. It's nice to see that has been done, and we really needed to acknowledge you for that and commend you for it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This is such a great encouragement for me. Thank you so much.
What does it mean for you going forward into the future? I would love to, and I mean, this is my ideology to you.
Yeah, yeah.
I always encourage people to take that one step further. Where do you see yourself going in the future? I'm hoping that you could take this philosophy and start inculcating it in many other schools,
Yeah.
so that, as I said, we can actually achieve an amazing South Africa with amazing South Africans doing things that really mean something to them, and they're going to be doing it with that drive and that ambition.
Yeah, I think definitely for me it's to continue growing as a teacher and to occupy leadership positions in my school first. I've just been recently appointed as the HOD for life orientation, so I really
Wow.
hope to level up in leadership in school, and obviously, in government, hopefully, so that I can also then implement this philosophy of mine in there as well. So I'm really truly encouraged, and I really want to do more with my career and being able to, reach out to more learners as possible. I mean, I also just started, just apart from my online teaching initiatives, I've also just started teaching at township schools in Soweto and in Rivoli as well. So I don't
Wow.
only want to be exposed to kids from X-Model C schools, but I also want kids to also be exposed to this level of education and philosophy as well in different areas of the country as well. So that's really where my career is headed, and I'm really excited. I'm definitely not quitting teaching anytime soon. It's just really just, trying to reach out as many people as possible.
I'm excited for you. It's nice to see that you're going out into those areas where people need the most as far as education is concerned. And as we know, I mean, Rivoli and those types of areas are in such dire need of people getting educated and uplifted. I mean, if you see the type of situations that they're in, education is going to be one of the most important things that's going to actually help themselves uplift the situation that they're in.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So it's there. I saw the need, and it's so discouraging to see how non-fee paying schools are like are very under resourced. They don't really have the best teachers around, and I mean it's very saddening for a person like myself who is in true belief of what South Africa could become. And if that's the sort of template that our government is saying that a South African school should be like, then that should obviously then reflect our economic status as well as the country. So if we,
For sure.
as teachers who come from schools that are resourced, very well skilled, are able to go into those townships and are able to change lives and still impart knowledge and the skills and the values in the same way that we do in schools like Greenside, then we're going to change our country into a better place, and it will have a ripple effect, and our economic status will also be better as well.
I absolutely love your outlook. What does this mean for you, having to know that you have received so many accolades on yourself? I mean, that self-fulfillment, I'm sure, there's nothing else like it, knowing that you've gone out there and you've uplifted somebody else from the situations that you were in. You've changed your life in so many directions, but knowing that you can go out there and you can change somebody else's as well.
Yeah, I know the accomplishments are really great, and I mean there is a great need for recognition. However, I think the fulfillment really just comes from within, and even when nobody is looking at me or giving me a token of appreciation, it just engaging with the kids in that way is a lot, like brings a lot of fulfillment and satisfaction. So I'm very happy just in general, and like I said, I try to live the truest expression of myself, and that brings a lot of happiness to me. So whether there's no MTN recognition award next year or any other year, I'm definitely going to continue doing what I do, because I do know that I'm changing young people's lives, and that's what matters at this very point.
I absolutely am blown away. I think you're doing a phenomenal job by being so selfless and giving back in so many directions. From myself and the Salam Media team, we want to commend you on the amounts of differences you've made in so many young lives to be able to change South Africa for the better. And the reason I say that is because they are the future of the country. So what message would you like to leave us with before you go?
I think one message that I'm going to leave everyone with, and I think it's how I've lived my life, is know who you are, know what you're good at, know what your skills and your talents are, and refine that talent, and then use that talent to be at service of other people. Just like how I have realized my talents and my skills, and I've been at service of my country. And in that way, the world will become a better place. So that's just my little message.
You know what you remind me of? There was a quote I read on Fearless Motivation the other day, and it says, "A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action becomes reality." And that's exactly
Absolutely.
what you've done.
That is so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Although I haven't written it, it comes from Fearless Motivation. I would like to dedicate that to you today, just as a form of commendation and an accomplishment for what you've done thus far. And we're waiting for those philosophies to be inculcated in all the other schools. So we're telling you, do nothing but go for it, because we can
No,
see
definitely.
I can definitely see you that go-getter. So I'm saying go for it, go out and do your best. And we definitely from the Salam Media team are going to be following you and seeing what you're doing in the future. And we wish you all the best. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us on such an inspirational segment. I think you've inspired me in many directions. It's something so unique and so phenomenal. So please keep going.
Thank you so much. I'm really humbled by your kind words. Thank you so much, and all the best.
You take care of yourself. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Sibusiso Masombuka, definitely a gentleman creating, should we say, a great vibe in the educational environment. And I think this should not go unnoticed. If anybody was watching this, especially on government level, have a look at it and let's try and change the way learning is looked at, creating these philosophies to be able to move people into the right spaces and create an absolutely great South Africa. We're going to go for a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be back with you in a moment.